Good morning. I hope you are well on this gorgeous day just before a lovely long weekend that I hope you've got exciting plans for. Well, today I'm going to tell you how to manage your anger. Now, we all get cross from time to time. Mark Twain said that anger is an acid that does more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to the person on which it is poured. Now, if you think about that, when you are angry at someone, you are experiencing the physical symptoms of anger, that fury. Your thought processes are affected, and the other person may, one, not be aware of it, or two, simply don't care that you are cross with them. So anger is really something we all experience. It is from time to time. It is a normal emotion, and in the appropriate circumstances and to the appropriate degree, it can be useful. It can encourage us to take action. However, what is appropriate? And of course, when we experience, I've heard it referred to as the red mist. When that red mist comes down and you are literally blinded by your fury, then obviously that is not good. Well, the dangers of anger is, of course, that it affects your relationships. It affects your career possibilities. And people don't trust you because they don't know how you are going to respond. You are unpredictable, and therefore they can't trust you. Now, where does it come from? Okay, let me say it could be a learned behavior in two ways. One, perhaps you saw a family member as a child getting very angry and then getting what he or she wants. In other words, well, let's not get dad angry. Let's rather just do what he wants. Let's not get dad angry. Let's rather give him what he wants. Or big brother or big sister, they get so mad that we acquiesce, that we give in to whatever it is they are asking of us. And we witness that, so now we copy that behavior. You have, as a small child, as a young child, seen that when this person gets angry, everybody else runs around and does whatever the person wants to calm them down, or they just do it right from the start to prevent them from getting angry. They don't argue with that person, they don't question that person, they just go with it to prevent the anger outbursts. That, of course, becomes a form of manipulation and bullying. When I get angry in order to get my way, I am manipulating others. And if I get angry and thereby intimidate others, it is bullying. So you can see that anger really has very limited use or application that will result in positive benefits. In a work situation, if you lose your fluff at work, you are, one, not popular. Two, it's definitely going to affect your relationships at work, and of course your possibilities of being promoted or given more responsibilities. And in a personal relationship, be it friendships or family or your life partner, if you are the one with an anger issue, then it will eventually affect that relationship negatively. So, managing your anger. Also, I refer to it as part of the impulse control, where it's a knee-jerk reaction, where you just really get so infuriated instantly, and you haven't really given it much thought or given yourself the opportunity to give it thought. So how do we manage our anger? In the first place, acknowledge that you have a problem. Like anything else, acknowledge that I am unable to control my anger. I'm unable to control the switch from being in a good space to being angry. That's the first step. Secondly, tell someone you trust that this is how you feel and that you would like their support. This obviously has to be someone who will give you appropriate feedback, not criticize you for the sake of criticizing you, but who can say, you know what, Lee, I have noticed that you are very quick to lose your temper when somebody mentions the rugby or that particular person is in your company or whatever. So somebody who can help you identify what your triggers are, when they happen, and somebody who can support you and say, well, let's have a safe word. If I feel I can sense that you are going to get angry, going to lose your temper, I'm going to use a safe word, and then you'll know. So tell someone you trust. Interrupt your anger. So when you feel yourself getting angry, before you go too far down that road, interrupt it. Just recognize that you are getting angry and walk away. Or just say to the person, look, I need to just calm down and we can take the conversation up at a later stage. Interrupt the cycle. If it's another person who's making you angry, then use empathy. Become curious about the other person. Become curious about why they say things they say, do things they do, and have the empathy for the other person. Remember, no one is perfect. It is very rarely is someone 100% right or 100% wrong. We're all some right, some wrong. And so be open to acknowledge that the other person may well be right and has the right to their opinion. And you don't have to force your opinion or your values onto someone else. So be empathetic. Learn to relax. Not everything is a disaster. Learn to have a sense of humor. Learn to laugh at yourself. Learn to laugh at situations. And learn to be a little bit lighter about the things and the people in your life. Then the next one is communication. Oh gosh, this always comes back to communication. It is just such an important part of who we are, the quality of our lives and the quality of our relationships. So make sure when you express yourself that you do it in a way that the listener can understand what you mean. So if I had to say to you, please fetch me a pencil, that's fine, you can fetch a pencil. But if I said to you, please fetch me the red pencil with the green rubber, then you know exactly which pencil I want. Then, of course, the other part of communication is listening. Learn to be quiet and listen to what the other person has to say and make sure you understand. And if I have a whole, as I do, container of pencils on my desk, then it would be appropriate for you to say, which pencil would you like, Lee? Because I see you've got quite a few. So learn to listen actively. Learn to ask questions before you make assumptions, which will or could perhaps lead you to the next anger outburst. So listen carefully and express yourself clearly. Be assertive. That is not aggressive. Aggression is about the ego. Aggression is, I'm right and you're wrong. Aggression is, I win, you lose. Assertiveness is about looking for balance. Again, as I said, very seldom am I 100% wrong or 100% right. Very seldom is the other person 100% wrong or 100% right. Look for the common ground. Look for the bits that you agree with, and then find a way to discuss and come to a compromise about the aspects you don't agree with. And then lastly, forgive. If you are a person out there listening, in listening land, who is still angry at someone who did something to you or said something last week, last month, 10 years ago, learn to forgive and say, you know what, I am letting it go. I am not angry at you anymore, and I'm not angry at myself anymore. Perhaps you feel that you could have, should have done better in putting your point across, I want to say defending yourself. And let it all go. Let it wash away. Because bottling up that anger, research has shown us that people who are angry, people who get angry often and easily, are more prone to heart disease, they're more prone to digestive problems, they're more prone to psychological problems. They battle with good decision making because, as we have discussed, emotional intelligence, when you act with heightened emotions, you tend to make poor decisions, and that leads to broken relationships, loss of trust, loss of respect, and a lot of crisis management or groveling afterwards. So every aspect of your life will improve when you learn to control your anger, when you learn to identify the triggers, when you learn to recognize the symptoms in yourself when you started to get worked up. And you can say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be calm. And I'm going to allow common sense to inform what I'm going to say and do next. I am not going to allow myself to get so angry that I do something that I'm going to regret later on or is going to cost me dearly. Dearly can be in terms of lost respect, lost friendships, but it can also lead to monetary loss if you have physically assaulted someone, if you have verbally climbed into someone to the extent where they want to take the matter further, if you have damaged property in a fit of rage, it can cost you. And as I say, when we behave like that, people look at us, and in that moment, we have lost their respect and their trust and their affection. And whilst family cannot become, we cannot unfriend our family members, literally. My brother will always be my brother, but I may never look at him in the same way again and think of him as well as I used to if he or my sister or whoever is inclined to have these rages and these temper tantrums. And as I say, if that is you, ask yourself if you're doing it to intimidate and bully, to get your own way. And as I say, your life will improve in every way if you recognize that you have an issue and if you start taking these active measures to get control over your anger, to manage your anger. I'm not sure who it was that said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies your power and your freedom to choose. So if the stimulus is my child coming home and just leaving their suitcase and their blazer all over the place, that's the stimulus. I can choose to have a outburst and shout and scream and carry on, or I can say, what is going to persuade my child to put their blazer and their suitcase, their satchel, where it belongs. And let me think about that and then engage with my teenager on that level. Because all of us who either have or have had teenagers know you can only do so much screaming and fighting, and then that loses its effectiveness. And it really does not build a good relationship with your teenager or with anyone else in your life. And at the end of the day, what we really want is a relationship where the other people in my life feel they can talk to me about anything. And we are together going to unpack it and find solutions and a way forward. And not think, well, I can't tell Lee this or I can't tell Mom that, because she's just going to lose it and shout and scream. And I don't want to experience that, and it's not going to be helpful, which it isn't. Rather say, how can I empower myself and then empower the other person to help them make better choices, life choices and decisions going forward. And when we display that, when we display to other people how effective it is to remain calm and collected and find a way forward, they start copying that rather than copying losing your temper and carrying on. And as I say, when you wake up the next day, nothing has changed. The situation is still as it was, except you've damaged relationships. And when there are children involved, you have done them the disfavor of teaching them a bad habit, a habit of lose your temper and that solves problems, because it does not. So I hope, listeners, that was useful. As I say, just to recap quickly, to manage your anger, acknowledge you have a problem. Tell someone you trust who can support you and give you feedback. Interrupt your cycle, interrupt the anger by walking away, by telling the other person, I need a break. Let's come back to this later. Be empathetic with other people. Be curious. Remember that they have a right to feel the way they feel and to express themselves in the way they need to, providing that's not insulting. And then you just remove yourself from the situation rather than react. Learn to relax. Not everything has to be taken so seriously. Communication. Express yourself clearly and listen actively. Be assertive. That means seek balance. And then lastly, forgive. Forgive people who you believe have harmed you or done you a wrong at some point. So I hope that was useful, listeners. Anger never achieves anything. It really just causes more damage, as Mark Twain said, to the vessel in which it is stored than to the person on which it is poured. Please keep your requests coming in. South Coast Radio and myself, we love hearing from you. We love hearing what's important to you and what's on your mind. And I hope you have a wonderful long weekend. And if there's a lady in your life, spoil her tomorrow. It's Women's Day. So do that, because giving to others is also giving to yourself. Have a wonderful day.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
This is South Coast Radio.